All right, Grand Rising, everyone. This is Ron. Saturday, October 18th, a little after 10 a.m. And beautiful morning this morning, at least in the upstate. See if we have any questions. Anybody? What we talked about last week, or anything that you may have on your mind this morning? Anything?
This is Vermel. I have a question for Nick because he mentioned it last week. What
Okay.
is it in Venezuela that our government feels the need to have?
Um, on the surface, the oil and sort of more deep into the nature of the sort of white supremacist colonial project that they are trying to expand, uh, just control of the entire region. They want to have Venezuela be kind of like a South American Iraq. They want eventually to just have complete domination over Central and South America. It's pretty simple, I think, in terms of what they want. And as I said also last week, the reason they gave that lady the Nobel Peace Prize is to uh, make it seem like Venezuela is an easy enemy, or to make it seem like they are more of a sort of quote unquote the bad guy that we have to deal with.
Thank you.
Any follow-up? Anyone?
To add to what Nick said,
Yes, sir.
Chavez nationalized the oil. They took it from Citgo years ago, and they overthrew him. And then Maduro came in and went back to the same program when it comes to oil that Chavez had. And they want to take the oil, but that's not important to them anymore. As Nick said, what's important to them is controlling Central and South America. And taking Venezuela would be a beginning, a base for them to control the rest of it. Because if they were really after the drugs, they would go to Colombia. If they really were after the drugs. And if you remember, about 6 months ago, if less than that, he allowed members and leaders of the Colombian cartels to take up residence in this country. So if he was after the drugs, why he's not there? I'm done.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Everywhere the US shows up and they destabilize, the drug trade explodes from that place. And the most amount of heroin and other opiates comes out of Afghanistan.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
And it got worse after the Americans showed up. Much worse. And there was a pretty good book that's going around that I keep seeing mentioned called the Fort Bragg Cartel.
Vietnam War.
Yeah.
And this book called the Fort Bragg Cartel basically details how the various U.S. Special Forces and other elements within the Army were involved in drug trade directly out of Afghanistan for the most part. But
Well, during my day, it was out of Vietnam. because there was no heroin problem in the major cities until the war in Vietnam grew. And the longer they stayed in Vietnam, the more heroin was exported to this country from not only Vietnam, what's it, Cambodia.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had drug routes in Cambodia and Laos. So that and then the cocaine trade came out of South America when America had control of most of the country, Colombia in particular, in South America. So let me just say this. If it were not for the US government, there would not be drugs in this country at the rate that they are. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
The CIA developed crack cocaine at UCLA. So, and it was especially, it was designed to be more addictive.
And I believe that gets into the when you start getting into those sort of deeply held secrets about the extremely negative, nefarious actions of various official United States organizations like the army or whatever.
But think about it, Nick. China. The British flooded China with heroin.
Oh yeah, yep.
So every European nation in a population larger than they think they can control, they introduce drugs.
Yep.
And that's what brought Mao Zedong to power, getting rid of the British because of the drugs.
That is, yeah, absolutely, very much part of the MO. It's that's the point at which it be the so-called deep state really begins to become obvious. Like you really begin to see the actual true nature of the underbelly of what this project is. The I use this term somewhat loosely, but the Illuminati basically is traffics in all those kinds of things, drugs, anything that is destabilizing for a potential threat to them. And I believe there's many layers to what it is, but basically the Illuminati, quote unquote. Like I said, I'm using this as sort of a catch-all term, but it basically exists at the intersection of transnational petrodollar capitalism, the intelligence agencies, the drug trade, and pharmaceuticals, because both of those are like directly related.
Well,
and like a couple other things, like in the center of all those, that Venn diagram, you begin to start to see what the true manifestation of this negative mindset that the earth is trying to throw off.
the false flag of 9/11, that false flag operation, when you think about it, there were no drugs coming into this country. None. For at least a week. All drug routes were shut down. So how did they do that? Because of 9/11 and all, just to tell that to people. And can't do it now. How is it possible?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Pastor, if I may,
Hold on,
say,
would you mute your phones, please? Would you make sure your phones are muted? Okay.
yeah,
George.
paralyzing everyone. Yeah, also, I mean, lately you just see more bombings of ships. You know what I mean? Than we would normally, see. I mean, in terms of it just being put out there in the macro, as far as socially. And again, I don't know if that's a message or something where United States government, is putting out there that their desires to stop drugs from coming in, but I still believe that it comes down to that control where they want you to see what they want you to see for the purpose of, I think, showing that they're doing something about that, even though that they may be involved with it indirectly. So I don't know if that has anything to do with what they're portraying, in the news media with regards to showing, ships being blown up by the United States. Just want to share those thoughts.
But George, those are the only ones the boats they're blowing up is Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
And laying the foundation for actually overthrowing or taking over the country. The lady who received the Peace Prize, that was supposedly, where you go, George? That was supposedly an opportunity to show gratitude to Trump. She is no different than Trump. She is said to be someone who is, quote unquote, fighting against this dictatorship for humanitarian reasons. Whenever this country start talking about a dictator taking advantage of its people, that means that they're getting ready to overthrow him. They're going to do everything they can to take that property, to take that country. And if you look at dictators like Pinochet in Chile, who are brutal, not Pinochet, I'm sorry. If you look at dictators like in Russia, they don't overthrow them. Dictators around the world who are really, truly brutal to their people, they do not overthrow them. Now, this is the key. Every country that's separated from America, or let me put it this way, European control, whether it be Niger or Burkina Faso, they did not have elections. And they are taking care of their people. And this country is doing everything it can, along with France especially, and Britain under the cover, to destroy the leadership in those countries because they are feeding their people. They are creating jobs for their people. But you go to other countries in Africa, like Nigeria, where BP still own all the oil, you will find that they're not trying to overthrow them because the people are starving. Anywhere the U.S. is going in, you know there's something right is happening in that country that they are trying to stop. And bottom line, I suppose, would be this: anything America is for, you better be against it. Because America does not do anything out of the goodness of its heart. Not one thing.
Yes, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Was Gaddafi the president of Nigeria?
No, Gaddafi was
What was
Libya.
Libya? Yeah, that's right. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Gaddafi was president of a list of countries that the United States has had since before 9/11 probably, but a list of countries that the United States has had that they wanted to invade and control. And I think Iran is the biggest one on that list. Venezuela's on that list. Libya was on that list. Iraq was on that list. It has nothing to do with anything other than complete domination of all of these sort of key areas of the world.
So the one,
Go ahead.
can I ask this question? So the ones that they kill off are the ones who they're trying to take over the country?
Yes, control it, yes.
Yeah.
Didn't they want control of the oil?
Yes, the ore, the gold, the cobalt, the lithium, whatever they have, they want it. Since we're talking about this, the U.S. is the leader when it comes to greed. For all intents and purposes, France is broke. When France, when Burkina Faso fell into the hands of the Africans, and Niger and Mali did the same thing, and other countries are following as we speak. Those countries, most of them, if not all, were countries that France controlled. And the wealth of France came out of Africa because of the minerals. And especially those three, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, when they shut it down, France lost its revenue stream for the most part because 90% of France income comes from Africa. 90% comes from Africa. And the gold that it was importing, stealing actually from Burkina Faso, was a major source of the income and financial stability in France. And with that being taken away, France is, on paper, they're not broke, but in reality, they are. And Trump has done his best to bring those countries that left, that told France to go home, trying to bring them under the umbrella of the U.S. for the purpose of saving France, to be honest with you. There's a lot going on, but I don't think we have really embraced why there's so much going on. And if you really give thought to what's happening, I beg your pardon. If we all really give thought to what is happening, what do we see? We see that these movements towards independence and self-control in Africa came in the years since we've been doing what we do. And I really don't think that people in African Americans in particular in this country understand the reason we are here and the power that we have. There's no way that you can believe in a creator and not believe that there is a reason that we are here. Not just the ones who have been here for 20,000 years, who they lied and called Native Americans when they are Africans. They are Native Americans, I suppose, but they're Africans. I'm talking about the ones who came across on the ships. Us. We were brought here for a reason. And The reason was to bring stability to the earth. And we are in the process of doing that. And if you think about what happened in the Sahel, Burkina Faso and the other two countries, Niger and Mali, and ask yourself, why is it that they are able to survive the way that they are, instead of being destroyed the way Gaddafi and Lumumba and all those were destroyed? Why? It's because they have spiritual protection, and there was no sense of spiritual protection sought by Africans on the continent. It was political battles taking place there. And if you look at the year that those three countries begun to move towards their independence and tell France to go home, you will see that it's during the period that we were doing what we are doing now. Prior to that, there was none of that. We are the protectors of humanity. We just didn't know it until recently, but that's who we are. We are the protectors of humanity. And African Americans have been convinced that they're not Africans, which is the most ignorant thing that any of us can say about ourselves. And at some point, maybe later, we can get into that unless there are questions about it. But Ron, did you have something, George?
No, I'm okay.
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 Thank
So, but anyway, I think that that we need to talk more about what it means to be an African American at some point, because that needs to be in the macro, and it is just as important as anything that we put in the macro, if not more important, because the mindset of the majority of the people in this country is that they are more concerned, as one writer said, they are more concerned with preserving Christianity than they are with freeing Black folks. The church is more concerned with protecting Christianity than they are with bringing freedom to us. And if you ask them, what do you think is Christianity and the freedom of Black people in this country, which one you think is the most important? And I guarantee you, they will tell you Christianity is. When Black folk talk about Christianity coming from Ethiopia, Christianity in Ethiopia is totally different culturally and spiritually than it is in this country. This brand of Christianity in this country is European Christianity. And what they called Christianity in Ethiopia was totally different than what Christianity is in this country. And even the Christianity in Ethiopia has been tainted, even though Ethiopia is the only country that's never been colonized. It is still, the Christianity is still tainted by missionaries from Europe and from this country, especially from Italy.
So, what you mentioned something though. What needs to be put into the macro about African Americans, if you don't mind going into that?
African Americans don't look at the big picture. African Americans' mind view is myopic. African Americans are arrogant, just like the Europeans taught us to be. African Americans are ashamed of who they are. African Americans do not, even that they would say, we came from kings and queens. They don't even know what that means. They say it, but they don't really like it because they are in denial as to their origin. You can find an Italian or someone from France or someone from any Scandinavian country, and they've been in this country for 100 years, but they still call themselves an Italian American because their roots are where? In Italy. African Americans are the only ones who do not identify themselves with an origin on this earth. The origin of Africans in this country were Africans in the diaspora that were 20,000 years before the Mayflower, and Africans who were brought across in ships and enslaved and indoctrinated with Christianity. And we are the only ones who say, I'm an American, I'm not an African. So if you are an American, that means that this is the country that you are native to, that all your roots are in this country, when they really are not. They are in Africa. And what's happening is that Christianity has taken such a toll on the mindset of the African until the African does not really know, or won't admit rather, who it is because of nappy hair, thick lips, dark complexions, those kinds of things that we are ashamed of. And if you don't put a hot comb in your hair, then you're ghetto, and put it that way, if you don't put a hot comb in your hair. And that's been like that for years. We measure our standards based upon the standards of white people. If white people do it, we're going to do it. The idea of Christianity in particular are churches. When white people built Sunday school classrooms, we built Sunday school classrooms. There was a time when our children were disciplined in church enough not to be a disturbance during morning worship, as we called it. When the white people built gyms, we built gyms. When the white people bought vans, we bought vans. There was a sense of community before we began to purchase vans, because there were people in our communities who would go pick up other folk and bring them to church. And that sense of community stayed intact. Then white people dress up to go to church and look down on all other people who wasn't. Then white people stopped dressing up to go to church. And we started having casual church day. And to this day, our church is not for poor people. Our church is for middle-class folks. Because if you don't have, quote unquote, the proper clothes to wear at the church, you're ridiculed. And I've had experiences with that during the course of my pastoring, and had to go off in a very dignified way, of course, on a couple of people who looked down or said that someone was not supposed to be in the church simply because they had on a shirt with a beer can on it. So all of these things, the church, the white church, it caters to middle-class white people, and the black church does too. The most addictive drug in this society is Christianity. And Christianity is the one drug that causes Africans to deny who they are, not realizing that the Africans in this country are positioned here for the express purpose of bringing balance to the earth. We as African Americans have a greater skill set than any group of Africans on the continent or any other place in the diaspora. If we were to begin investing in Africa, whether it be money, time, or our acknowledging who we are, that continent would be self-controlled or controlled by Africans in little or no time. The ones who are beginning to move from under the thumb of Europe, they are doing it with the help of Africans from this country who recognize who they are. And there are more white people from around the world who offer their skills to emerge in African countries than there are people of African descent who's doing the same thing. And it's an awful thing to have to say, but it's the truth. We have been so indoctrinated to it's a shame. The people the Africans on this earth who deny that they are African or that they have African origins is America. You will nowhere else on this earth will you find that Africans in the diaspora deny their roots, except in this country. This is the country. And most of them are Christians. And Christians are dangerous to anything that pertains to indigenous people. Because by virtue of being a Christian, you have embraced and you are week in and week out justifying the brutality, the barbaric nature of Europeans. You are making every effort to be just like they are. And you make every effort to have what they have, knowing that in order for you to have what they have, you're going to have to damage some people, and you're still not going to be accepted. There's not one African in this country, even though you deny being African, who does not know that you will never make it in this country to a place called equality. That's not going to happen. Look at what happened to Smith, the guy who paid all the scholarships for one of the schools in Georgia, in Atlanta. What happened when he did that? Every one of those kids had to pay tax on the money that he paid off for them. That has never been heard of before. So that's what I'm talking about, Ron. When I'm talking about African Americans not understanding the nature of who they are and the power that we have, we are a spiritual force in this earth to be reckoned with, above every other force on the face of the earth. You've heard me say this. We are the tip of the spear. We are the vanguard.
What's the upswing? What's the there's got to be something. You put it out there and you've said what the facts are. What
I got you. I got it.
Yeah.
What the way that we change that, and I assume that's what you're alluding to, right?
Yes.
Okay. The way we change that is by talking about, we've admitted what it is. Now we need to talk about what it means to be an African, in the diaspora in particular. The only reason that we are called Africans in the diaspora. Africans in the diaspora does not mean that Africans were not indigenous to this landmass called America.
Yeah.
Africans in the diaspora refers to the Africans that were enslaved in this country and the islands and the other countries around the world.
Pastor, I have a question. What is diaspora?
The ones who don't live on the continent of Africa. We live.
Thank you.
Africans who live around the world in other countries. Does that help you, Evan?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. When we talk about Africans, as I was saying, in the diaspora, we're talking about Africans who are descendants of slaves.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about Africans who currently came from the continent. Now, why is it called why is it not the diaspora? It's because Africans occupied every landmass in this earth. So Africans are indigenous to the earth, meaning that the African's origin is the earth, Africa in particular. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And being indigenous means that there was no one, any place on any landmass in this earth except the African during hundreds of thousands of years. No one. And excuse me. And that's why Africans are indigenous to the earth. The Africans who are in the diaspora are the ones who were brought in slave ships. And we are the descendants of Africans who were brought in slave ships. Does that make sense? Can you see the difference between the two? Is my question, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we fix it by continuously talking about who we are. What we have talked about in the past has been pretty much geared toward our historical/spiritual essence, but we've not truly addressed the pitfalls of or the shame, I should say, the shame that African Americans have for who they are. Now, ask yourself this question. Why is it that African Americans hate themselves, hate their identity more than any other group of Africans on earth? Why? Because we might not know it, but those who are in power knows it. They know who we are. We Africans in this country are the Africans who grew up in Pharaoh's house. So we know Pharaoh's house. We know the governance of Pharaoh. We know how the society of Pharaoh functions. We were brought here to understand that, so that we will be able to lead our people into the wilderness and draw out of them Christianity. Excuse me, and draw out of them Christianity and Islam and Judaism, to draw all of that out of our people. We are destined to do that. And that's what we are doing by virtue of putting in the macro the essence of our spirituality. I don't know how we can say that Black folk are the most forgiving folk on earth and not ask yourself, how did that come to be? And if you're not an African, why does it still exist within you? Why have you not taken on the nature of the enslaver? That regardless of whether or not we deny our ancestry, there are lines we don't cross. We have empathy. We express it. But yet we don't understand why. We think that is a natural thing with all people. That is not true. The majority, well, let me put it this way. The European mindset does not have empathy for anyone. And that is why they can so easily hunt for the hell of it. It's a sport. And we have bought into that. It's a sport as opposed to a method of eating. And that sounds so simple. Why is it that when we look at wars, or when we look at people who are railing against us or this country, we say nobody in the world could defeat us. We talk about, when they were talking about giving the Ukrainians the Tomahawk missile, one of the first things that one of the talking heads said was the Tomahawks came into existence during the Gulf War. And those missiles were very effective in destroying Saddam Hussein's army. What is he saying? We have the most effective weapons on earth to kill people. You don't hear anyone in those positions talking about the benefits that we offer people. Yeah, they talk about AID. Yeah, they talk about World Health Organization, but both of those are designed to manipulate and control countries under the guise of helping them. If they were truly a help to all of the countries, as they say that they are, then why is it that there are no modern hospitals in the villages? Why is it that there's a dearth of doctors on the continent and in other places where they say that they help someone? The WHO is no different than what the likes of Bill Gates is doing. They have no intent to do anything except reduce the population on the earth and control the resources of the earth. That's the goals of all of that. So there is no intent to help anyone except those who are greedy, the ones who control the earth now. African, we are the only ones. Hear me and hear me good. We the Africans in this place called America are the only ones who is a wall between the destruction of the earth and the life of the earth. You say, how can that be? Look at what has taken place. We have history that we don't pay any attention to. When Obama was elected president, we were ecstatic. I know I was, if you wasn't. And when he was elected president, we saw a Black president. We saw an African president. but that it was more than that. We wanted everything to be brought to the surface. And if Obama had not been elected president, Donald Trump would never have been president, because he would not have beat Hillary Clinton if she had become president during that time. The ancestors made sure that Obama became president and not Hillary, because Hillary was more masculine than feminine when it came to her governance. And her desire was more vicious toward people in the diaspora, and people across this country who she played games with. But Obama became president for a time like this. The effectiveness of Obama was not felt while he was in the office. The effectiveness of Obama is seen now. When I say no Obama, no Trump, that means there would not be an understanding by the average person of what this country represents worldwide. Our ancestors allowed this to be. The only former president who has spoken out in such a manner that says without the shadow of a doubt that Donald Trump is a wannabe dictator, and progress to the point of saying Donald Trump is a dictator. He's the only former president who said that. He was the first one, and as far as I know, still the only one who's spoken out in that manner. How come the Bush has not done that? Why is it that Clinton has not done that? Why? The African voice had to be heard. The African voice had to speak and show us, show humanity, show the world what it looks like to be a European, hear me? A European dictator. And I know some of you historians, you're going through your mind and you're thinking about in Haiti, Papa Doc in Haiti back in the day. You're thinking about those who were deemed were dictators on the continent. They were not dictators. Papa Doc was no dictator. He was the face of European dictatorship. And that's why he was so ruthless, because he represented European mindset of dictators. And it took Obama to point that African voice to point that out. The other reason that Obama was became president is to show us the difference between spirituality and religion, even though he didn't know that, and to this day he doesn't know it. When he spoke out against what's going on now, he remained in a state of religion, which means that he does not understand how to deal with it, but he opened the door for us to be effective to deal with it. If no Obama, no Trump, we would not have been able to see the nature of this country, of this European world. That's what I'm saying. And now, any questions about that? Because I want to take it a step further. Great questions or comments?
Just a comment. Yeah, I very much agree. Obama was the anomalous thing that should not have happened in the minds of this European Neanderthal white supremacist desiring of global domination mindset that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you get what Nick was saying? If it's not clear, please just say it's not clear to me, and he'll make it clear. or clearer?
Can
Okay,
he elaborate, please?
go ahead.
Sure. So I said Obama was the anomalous event or the thing that should not have happened in the sort of plans of this sort of negative mindset. Obama was the sort of thing that allowed us to glimpse on the surface the underlying spiritual changes and changes in our sort of collective awareness that were happening and are happening. And it sort of sent that mindset into a reactionary spiral. And that is currently what we're seeing. What greatly accelerated its attempt to destroy that, and is accelerating its attempt to destroy that underlying mindset, that resistance to its domination. Because Obama was the symbol that there was a great groundswell of something that they don't want. Thank you.
Evan?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, and Pastor, if I may, Nick, I think that, not I think, I know that the Creator and our ancestors knew that we wanted to see this come to the light, where we are now engaged in talking about what is so pertinent with regards to seeing how the government and how Trump is creating, this confusion or creating this desire that he has. But I think, again, it was because of our desire to want to see it come to the light, in terms of the true reality of how, the NR mindset is functioning, and more importantly, how governance is now doing things where it's just so blatant right in front of us. And so I think that that was one of our desires, is to see the truth, let it come to the light. And Donald Trump was the person who, as you say, has given us the reality of, where things are.
Yes,
I'm done.
thank you. Donald Trump actually forced us to move to a place where the eye was open instead of the eyes. What you meant for our bad, Elohim means for our good. And anyone else, because I want to take this a step further, if it's okay.
Go ahead.
It had to be Hispanics who've been hunted down like the animals. Not only because their attitude towards us is no different than the white man's attitude. If it was us who were being targeted, who do you think would be coming to our rescue? Nobody. So why are white people coming to the rescue of Hispanics? Because they're not us. Because they are coming to the rescue of Hispanics, because Hispanics not only are being treated like animals, but Hispanics are also has an attitude about God, about Elohim, about the African that white people have. Their attitudes about us are the same. And their retribution is happening as we speak. And we have nothing to do with it. The very people who they thought they were and who they thought they were accepted by are the same people who beating the hell out of them every chance they get. Is it spilling over to us? Yes, it is. But again, if it were us, no group of white folk would be in the street with us. About 10 of them maybe per state. but that's about it. Who was out there with George Floyd? Yeah, there were white people out there, but not like they are now. Not like they are now. All across this country, white people are organizing groups to go up against ICE. If it was us, we would have just been getting our ICE beaten. So it had to be the Hispanics. And now the Hispanics want us to come. We sorry. Why are you guys at home? We sorry because the ancestors told us to stay home. You need to know what it feels like to be at the other end of white folk when it comes to your skin color. Not only that, even your language. You can look white and speak Spanish, and you still picked up. All of these things are tied in to what? Freedom. Hispanics are going, before it's over with, because you have some Hispanics who are ICE agents, just like you have some people who are African that are ICE agents. You always have that. Hell, some of the people who look like us were part of the slave patrol. We must look at these. This is the history of the things that we have not delved that deeply into. And that history is how we as Africans in this country think about ourselves in relationship to our origin. How the message of Obama wasn't just for a Black president, it was for the uncovering of how this country functions, how this country thinks about us and other people of color, as well as their own white poor people. When enslavement was in high gear, white people realized that there were more of us than them. Gabriel Prosser in Virginia had organized an uprising, a rebellion against the enslavers. And the night that they were supposed to execute their plan, they had a vicious storm in Richmond. And all the streets were muddy and there was flooding. But in addition to that, someone had told the enslavers what the plan was. So yes, they captured Gabriel Prosser and they executed him along with 100 other folks who were with him. That was one of the pivotal points that brought slave patrols in existence, because they realized that there are too many of them. There are more Africans enslaved than there are of us. And if they ever come or connect with the poor white people, we don't have a chance. So what they did, they got the poor white people to be slave patrols, and the white people, the poor white people, to track down escaped slaves. And that's how they brought poor white people into the fold, paid them little or nothing, but they had in their minds, you're white and you can control these enslaved people. Of course, they used the N-word. You are responsible for controlling them, and whatever you have to do to bring them back dead or alive, it doesn't matter. We're going to pay you. And that's how they got white people, poor white people, to follow them and do their biddings. And that's what brought them to the policemen into existence. And if you know the history of policemen, you also know that being a policeman was one of the lowest jobs on the totem pole, because when when Europeans who were not considered white came into this country, they ended up becoming policemen. That's where the word paddy wagon came from the Irish policeman. So what am I saying to you? I'm saying to you that this whole concept of enslavement, this whole concept of what America is, has been manipulated from the beginning. And the way they got poor white people to do it is by simply saying to them, you're white. You're not a nigger, you're white. You better than them because you're white. And to this day, that prevails. Now, we are at a space in time where that is beginning to be void in terms of their following it. Poor white people are beginning to open their eyes. They don't have no eyes, but opening their eyes to see what's going on. And that is the reason that Medicaid had to be dealt with harshly, because white people, poor white people, are crying because they're not getting their food stamps. Think about that. The voices of poor white folk is beginning to be heard because they're not getting their food stamps. Middle-class white folks are losing money, losing status, and losing their quote-unquote rights because they're not supporting Trump, because they are Democrat. And today, that's why this No King's March is in force. And you will not see what you would have seen if it were us doing the same thing. We march peacefully and they shoot tear gas at us. We march peacefully and they beat us. See what happens in this No King's March today. My desire is for the policemen and the National Guards to treat them the way we are treated. I want them to treat them that way. When that happens, and they get a taste of what they've been meeting out, or what they've been sitting at home watching on TV and saying, my God, we have to stop this. These Black people are being mistreated, and we have to form groups to talk with Black people and ask them, what can we do? They're not doing that with themselves. What they're saying now is for us to come out there with them. They don't want us with them to save them as much as they want us with them to bear the brunt of what is coming. All of these things are the things that have been brought into the mindset of this country, so that this country can see what happened and is happening with us. You cannot hate God and expect to live in peace. The Hispanics hated God. The white people hate God. What do I mean? Hispanics hate Black folk. We are Elohim. We are the gods in this earth. And you have railed against God. That God that the Catholics gave you, that God that Europeans gave you, is not the God of this earth. And you have bastardized yourself by worshiping a God, submitting to a God that white people created for you. And we do it every Sunday morning, as opposed to recognizing that the first people on this earth are the Africans. And there would be no one on this earth if it did not come through the African. And if the African is the spiritual conduit through which all mankind came into this earth, that means that the closest thing, in simple terms, to Elohim, to the creator, is the African. And everyone else came out of the African. So the African is your God. And the one who created us is who we are. Because it says that Elohim created in his image and likeness. And if Elohim created in his image and likeness, then that means that the African has not only the image and the likeness, they're speaking more to mindset and demeanor than skin. That means that we are no different than Elohim. And the reason the African woman has the genetic propensity to bring into this earth any what we call race of people speaks volumes about life coming from the womb of an African woman. That life still comes from the womb of the African woman, because the African woman still possesses that thing called the Eve gene. The Eve gene is simply talking about having the propensity to bring into this earth any race of people. And having said all of that, when you look at the people who occupies this earth, the features of the African can be found in every group of people except Europeans. When I'm talking about broad nose, I'm talking about the kinky hair, all of that. This was an anomaly from which from that came as a result of the African moving, being indigenous to the whole earth. I'm done. I done talked too much already. Questions, comments? No questions, no comments. I'm done, Ron.
Well, I'll tell you one thing I got from it. The catalyst for spiritual movement or awakening in this country is more evident, or just as evident, from the Africans in this country as it is the Europeans. You look at the Europeans and say they're more active in the things that we see, but it's the Africans in the church and our pride, or whatever you want to call it, that also kind of stands out. So those two things kind of combat each other to me. One trying to be what he can never be, and the other one working just as hard to keep him where he is, he or she is. There's something
You know what? African trying to be what he could never be, right?
yeah,
European, no, it can't be like the African. So it takes what the African has to offer and make it his own.
okay,
Does that make sense?
yes, yeah.
So you hate your creator.
Excuse me. Any other thoughts or questions, y'all?
This is Vermel. This is my question. It's been on my mind for a while. Sage, you just talked about what has to happen in terms of us not being out there and Europeans being out there. How forgiveness is the word that comes to mind. I'm not sure how to shape this question. How does the role of forgiveness work in this? Because I always think of forgiveness like, I guess from the physical standpoint, that I want to forgive them for what they've done. But does it warrant forgiveness, what's being
First of all,
done?
I understand what you're saying because we go through
Okay.
this all the time. We think forgiveness means that you release someone for what they did, and you restore them to their original state. Therefore, it's okay for you to invite them to dinner. Forgiveness doesn't work like that. Someone murders your child, you can forgive them for murdering your child, but I don't think you're gonna have dinner with them or invite them to dinner, or they're going to be your best friend.
Right.
That doesn't mean you didn't forgive them simply because they're not your best friend. One of the things that the scriptures have taught us is one of the things that have kept us in the role of submissiveness, and that is when someone hits you or slaps you, turn the other cheek. Forgive me, doesn't slap you on the other cheek, no ma'am. Or if someone takes your cloak, give them whatever your outer garment, your inner garment as well. No, we have been indoctrinated in that, saying that if someone comes and steals your gold, then give them the help they need to take it away. That's not what forgiveness is. If someone hits you on your cheek, turn the other cheek, but it didn't say what to do after you turn. Because when they hit you, your cheek go turn, but it didn't say what to do after that. But we have grown to the place where we believe that we are supposed to be abused,
Yeah.
spiritually and physically, and you go get yours when you get to heaven. So take no thought of the riches of this world. You go get it when you get to heaven. Well, hell, you're not waiting till you get to heaven. That justifies theft in the mind of the indoctrinated one. And subconsciously, we believe that you go get yours in the by and by. Now, I want you to answer this to me, please, in your own mind or verbally, doesn't matter to me. Answer this to me. How is it that you believe, first of all, that you're Elohim? Secondly, that there is no heaven and there is no hell based upon what Christianity teaches? How can you believe that doesn't exist, yet you are still waiting for your reward when you die? Those things are inconsistent. Inconsistent. So the other thing about that is this. If you truly believe that heaven exists, the next white person who talked to you about heaven, ask them this. How is it that we are going to be united in the by and by or in heaven, and there is no unification here on earth? Is racism going to exist in heaven? Can you murder someone and not care about having murdered them and go to heaven? No, they tell you. Well, what about your ancestors? They killed us. Your great granddad in hell. You see where I'm coming from? None of these things are consistent. It makes no sense when you think about it. Am I clear on what I'm trying to, the picture?
Very clear. Very
Yeah.
clear.
So it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't. My grandmother's brother, the white man spat on him and went for his gun, and it didn't turn out well for the white dude. And he had to leave Union and never come back because of that. But the white dude is in heaven because he goes to church every Sunday. That's crazy. That's crazy. On your way from church, you lynch somebody and you cut the finger off and give it to your child as a souvenir. And just because you go to church, deacon, you going to heaven? None of that makes sense. So anyway, I thought I was finished. I think I am now.
That's what I mean. There's only one real consciousness. There's only one. And you can break off piece of it if you want. You can say God is love and make that into 1,000 religions, any way you want to do it. But there's only one true consciousness. And I think there is an awakening. Well, I don't think, I know there is an awakening happening to that true consciousness. And we may call it something different, but it is truth. And all this other BS and stuff that you look at and say, well, how could we ever believe? You didn't really believe it. You just had to live with it until you were at a place or a generation that can awaken to the truth and not be slaughtered for talking about it. So we represent a lot here. And the things that go on this phone is not just for us. And we talk about putting things in the macro, but this is very deep. We're touching things that not only need to be uncovered, but this awakening is real. And that's why you hear other people start talking about it now and seeing it.
Yes. Two things. Yeah, I'm for real finished. One is when people got sick, it slowed me down in terms of my always moving. And I was more available to listening at the ancestors and meditating more instead of moving around so much. The second thing is this. The greatest thing that ever came out of COVID, even though COVID was well, anyway, I'll get into that. The best thing that ever came out of COVID is that it brought all of us together. If it had not been for COVID, we would not be where we are now in terms of our understanding. And it took two things to bring us to where we are. One, my having to be still and stay with Zoom. Two, all of us coming together because we were on Zoom during COVID. Those are the reasons that we are where we are in our understanding. Those are the reasons that we are talking about how time has sped up. I mean, yesterday, I'm like, oh my God, Saturday's tomorrow. It seemed like it came so quick. There are so many things that happened to bring us to where we are. And now that we are looking at them retrospectively, we have a greater clarity of their existence in our lives. I'm done. I'm going to click this button, the mute button, and I'm going to be muted until we say
Thoughts or questions, y'all?
I just want to say thank you for all the explanations today and better understanding. Thank you.
He's muted, so I'll say you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ron, also, as Vermel, mentioned, there's virtues that the Cushion Kemetic, teachings talk of in terms of our thoughts. And as we, continue to, appreciate our journey, when I say erasing the tape, just being able to appreciate our foundation when it comes to our primary source of our history. And so our thoughts in terms of how we see it with our eye is so important for us to continue to meditate on. And secondly, when we talk about our words, the words that we speak, the words that we share, I truly believe that is resonating where we're able to appreciate our beginnings, and moving forward with regards to how our energy is being received in the macro. And lastly, it's about our actions. Those were the three virtues that our ancestors spoke of when it came to where we are now and our desire to move to where we desire to be. So I think that, again, those three, point of emphasis, for me and for us is something that we have the mind, as a creator to be able to create our desires. So I just wanted to share those three thoughts, just from a virtual standpoint. I'm done.
You said something, though. I'm going to probably not today, but I want you to elaborate on later. When you're talking about thoughts and you said erase the tapes, I want to maybe revisit that if you don't mind at some point. Kind of go into it, okay? Anyone else? Awesome discussion. Love the questions. Good energy. All right then. Well, we'll put a pin in it for now and pick up here tomorrow at 11. Okay. Hope you guys have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your day. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you. Much love.
Thank you, everyone.
great.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Take care, family.